an exceptional job. So we're happy to have you. And I am thrilled to have our speaker today, Dr. Pauline Crawford. I've just met her. She's a new member to the Global Chamber. She's a global citizen, a global leader, and she just is so fun and positive. Within a minute of talking with her, you just automatically feel uplifted. So Dr. Crawford will do a presentation. I'll be watching the chat, so feel free to put questions in there. And so, Pauline, do you prefer questions as we go, or would you rather we wait till the end and then have questions?
I'd rather wait till the end and have questions, but I'd love people to put their thoughts into the chat. So
Okay, so every once in a while, take a break and I'll keep an eye on the chat here. And welcome to all the global leaders and salespeople. I'm Connie Kadansky. I'm the facilitator for this Sales Roundtable. And our November speaker they're in a move of their entire business. So if any of you know anybody who could be a good presenter in the global arena for sales, please put in chat or reach out to me and let me know. So we have a vacancy there for November. It's the second Thursday in November. So with that said, that's all the housekeeping. So Paulina and Dr. Crawford, you're very welcome. So it's all yours.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Global Chambers. Thank you, Connie. Erica, I know Doug is there somewhere. Thank you for this opportunity. Let me just make sure I've got my water here. I've put some very special slides together for all of you. So I'm going to share my screen and let's get motoring on this fascinating subject. So can you see my screen, everybody?
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so I'm looking at how we understand client archetypes to build stronger relationships. And my background is as an observer of life, as well as a behavioralist and a conversationalist. But I think a lot of what I do, I hope, is common sense, but also study of all of the things that help us build relationships, especially between men and women. So we're looking at how we spot the archetypes. I'm going to introduce you to these 4 archetypes. I want you to think as we go through which one you are. It's not too difficult because there's 2 men and 2 women. These are not personalities, and I will share more about that. Then we've got to understand the philosophy around how we create relationships and what is endemic in that, and how do we handle the tough times? How do we understand the difficult conversations that come up, the difficult clients? I'm sure all of us have had times where we've thought, oh my God, no, this is not the person for me. I've got to go somewhere else. So let's take a look at understanding client archetypes to build strong relationship, especially between men and women. So I'm focused not on sales techniques, but on people. How do we understand people in any nation, any preference, any culture, any generation? Just who are they in front of us? And obviously within that, we need to know who we are. So that's going to be really important. So I hope you like my stylized men or women here. How can we crack this sales code? And with gender dynamics intelligence, this is what I wanted to, it's the absolute mission in my life to help everybody create harmony in their life, and especially between men and women, because there is a divide. So what we're going to do is going to observe these archetypes and have some fun with them. And your face, your body, your stance, your biology, everything comes into it. So I want you to think about that as we go forward. And if we can gain insight into who's in front of us almost before they speak, that's going to be an advantage to be able to build rapport. So rapport is a bridge between me and you. How much do I understand you? How much do I understand me? And actually, it's quite difficult. So what we're going to do is 3 things. We're going to spot the archetypes, and they are ruler, philosopher, magician, and sovereign. I will explain them in a minute and show you their faces. We're going to boost relationships by building trust with a philosophy around stronger relationships, which will lead to profitable connections, and then handle those tough clients. Okay, so spot the archetypes. Do you know yourself to know others? Stephen Covey talked about that, seek to understand. But what are the major challenges you face in building relationships? And you can either think about those or write a note in the chat. What are the major challenges in building relationships? And that might be not just in sales, but in your family, in your business, with the local authorities, whoever it is. What I think is happening is there's a lot of mistrust, misunderstanding, and missed opportunities. And that is the key thing, is how can we harness opportunities without, with not sticking to a standard sales script. So here are the archetypes. I want you just to focus on them. There's two men here. One is very bold, very direct, looking you in the eye. The other one is slightly gentle. He's looking away. These are two men. Biologically, they're very task focused. We're going to find out more about them. But the difference between them is very focused, direct, more indirect. So if we look at two females, there's the very bold female. She's looking direct, straight at you. I'm going to tell you a thing or two. And this architect is looking slightly away. So let's give them some names so we can get into this. This is the ruler. He's action man. He's got bullet points. He knows where he's going. He's a decision maker. The philosopher is a thinker feeler. It's a servant leader, as Nelson Mandela. He's the one who's observing. So just as the men on the call, which do you think you favor? And you might at the moment think both. That's okay. With the magician, who's very direct. She's into her head. She's looking for ideas. And here's the sovereign, a gentle queen. She's looking after her community. Now, we're going to dig deeper into these four, but I want you to think about where you feel that you are. And remember, it's not a personality, it's a behavioral type. So, few questions for you to ponder. Why do we seek to build rapport with all of these archetypes? Because they're out there. They are. They're in every relationship. Can you view the world through another's eyes? And are you willing to respect different perspectives? We live in a world which is very contentious at the moment. A lot of people really fighting each other, angry. And I want to get away from that. And I want to look at it as a cycle. So boosting your sales rapport is going to be a cycle. And this is a very important part of my philosophy, which I'm sharing with you, and I hope you agree. The me is the most intimate thing you know. Whose body are you sitting here with? This is you. You got to know yourself. How much do we know ourselves? We look in the mirror, we get reviews from other people. But I really want you to dig deep into who are you as you react to other people. Because when you look at the you and me arrow, that's all about relationships. If I know me, I might get the chance to know you, and then together we build rapport. But we can't do that unless I know myself. And often we get in our own way. I hope you agree. I know for sure I do on occasion. So what is the last arrow, the red arrow? That's where the sale happens. That's the value creating conversations. And the main point for me today is that we're going to sell through conversations, because by building rapport, building relationships, we will then be able to get that win. But not everybody is the same. So we need to find out how to understand the intricate way that we relate to each other. And I love this view of life, is that everything connects to everything. A butterfly in one part of the world affects something in it. Like everything is connected and it's all energy. So if we think about relationships, and that could be anywhere in the sales cycle or in your life cycle, what I want to propose to you is that communication brings information, but conversation creates trust and rapport harmony. Because conversation is a cycle. I speak to you, you speak to me, we start sharing. This is more than communication. And we know it's always said in the sales cycle that building rapport, people buy from people they know, love, and trust. That's right, isn't it, Connor? You know, that is a basic sales proposition. We still need techniques to pin down the deal for sure, but this is really about who we are. And I hope you agree with me, men and women are not the same. If you do think they're the same, then we're probably on the wrong planet together. But men and women do think and react differently. And generally, men think in a box. They think very linearly. They say, oh, yes, either or, yes, no. And that's great. Women, we speak in circles, and we go and round and round. And for the men on the call, I wonder if you recognize that when you're trying to pin women down to a decision, and they're going around in circles. And women, when we're going around in circles and we don't want to be told to make a decision, then we need to be listened to, because we need to value differences. And men have built a world which is traditionally in a square box and very much about transactions, whereas women, as we all know, we do multiple things. We're doing family and relationships and community and building a foundation and doing a business. And that's what we call multitasking. So when you're selling to somebody who's totally different to you, whether you're a woman or a man, you have to take these things into account. Because if there's a block in communication and it goes past each other, we might be saying, oh, yes, 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 but we go out the door and say, no, don't want that. So we're going to put this all in one circle, because we're living together, we're working together, we're being productive together. And actually, one of the key things that's important is this idea of women being and. It's something that men often say to me, I don't understand that. But women do things very well by being in a cycle of relationships and chat and conversation and chat and conversation and making things, whereas men do one thing at a time. Now, we're not going to change each other. I don't want women to become men or men to become women, and I'm not being unpolitical or anything. I'm just talking about human energy and how we talk to each other. So let's just look at a few basics which come out of research. This is research that's been around for loads and hundreds of years, probably. Men think in boxes. So if we're selling men to men, it's going to be possibly more transactional, whereas women are at multi-level, so that we want something that's more transformational. We want something with feelings and energy. Men might work on one thing at a time. Women work on several things and situations. So if a man, and I had this recently, a man trying to sell me onto his pitch, and it was so linear and so bullet point, it just didn't work for me. The energy was so wrong. Even though he had a good product, I couldn't buy it. Men nod to agree, whereas women nod to say, maybe. So just remember, when we've got body language in the way, it's just something to be aware of, because she might be going, nod, 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 and you're thinking, oh my God, she agrees. But actually, she doesn't. She's thinking of 10 other things. And this works both ways. There's not a right or wrong way. This is a fabulous one. Women ask questions to further conversations, whereas men ask questions for answers. I hope you guys recognize that. I can see somebody laughing there, but I do it all the time. I'll ask something which sounds like a question, and my husband said, I don't know the answer to that. I said, I'm not asking for an answer. I'm just expanding my conversation. So men tend to work singularly, even in a team, whereas women tend to work together. Now, these are generalizations, but when we're looking to build rapport, we want to just remember these at the back of our mind, because in a moment, we're going to dig deeper into these archetypes, and we're going to find the complexity is multi-leveled, but there's a simple answer in the middle of it. There is a stress point, and men often go fight and flight when they're in stress, and women tend to befriend. So what does that mean in sales language? It means that when women are under stress and pressure, they want more attention. And when men are under stress, they probably want less attention, and they don't want the chat. So when you're selling men to women, just be really careful of that, to make allowance. I remember one man who really got this in one of my workshops said, I really get that. How long do I have to pause and wait and listen? And so I said, well, try 20 minutes. And he said, oh, okay, I'll try that. So what I find with men is they can do things for an outcome in a very logical, task-focused way, but it will work. So if a woman is not pursuing the sale that you're pitching at her, you really want to pause and listen and listen and listen. And it might be difficult because you're more task-focused. And everything comes together now because we are looking at women empowering men, men welcoming women. We're in this game together. And especially in Global Chamber, what I love about this global connectivity and cross-cultural connectivity, it's also very fluid between men and women. And we all have advantages to bring. So remember this cycle. It's a cycle of conversation. And I hope you've been thinking about those archetypes because we're going to dig down now into them. So are you the ruler or the philosopher, you guys? Are you the magician or the sovereign, you women? Let's draw it onto a map. I love mapping things because I love geometry and mathematics. And you notice there that the M for men has two colors because there's two of you. And so you're sitting on that square grid, and we know that the women are more relational. So remember those keywords, task and relational. Your relational quotient, your rapport quotient is really important, but you don't have to become the other one. You can do it from your own lens, because this is what the map looks like energetically. So women are in circles of conversation and thought process, and you guys are in straight lines of boxes. And this is all good. This is what I want to emphasize. It's not a battle. This is a game. This is a game that we need to play differently for me, because rapport is everywhere. So if we look at those characters who are logical, they come in male and female types. So the ruler is similar to the magician because they're in their head. The difference is ruler is a man and the magician is a woman. So all of those differences I showed you about men and women are additional to this. Now, I'm a magician, so I know this very well. And I know that Erica on here, and I think Connie as well, that we're magicians, but that's just my thought process. The similarity between us is we have this masculine energy. Whereas if we look at the feminine energy, it's much more about intuition and creativity and thinking, caring. Do you remember the two pictures? One was much more down, looking away, looking softly. And you'll see that. You'll notice the people who don't always look straight into the camera. I always look straight into the camera. It's not that I'm being aggressive. I just am very direct. So if we look at those characters there, we know that we have, where are they? Sorry, my screen, come on. Don't freeze on me. So the sovereign there and the philosopher there. And you remember what they look like. So now, just watch this. We need to get everybody in a circle. Remember, we're going to do the sales in a circle. And the ruler is very direct. He's going to step into the circle and ask, when are we going to do what we're going to do? And notice how direct he is. Whereas the magician, she's also direct, but she's got some flexibility around her, being a female. The sovereign has a lot more softness to her. She's looking for care. She's looking to create that energy of caring for you. And the philosopher is asking questions. So if you're that one, you're already asking questions. Now, you may be a ruler asking questions, but the idea here is that we're looking to know, love, and trust. So how do we do this? We use different language. So I'm looking at you direct. I'm saying, what are we going to do next? And the sovereign might be saying, who's on board with me? And the philosopher might be saying, why are we here? And the ruler saying, I've got 3 bullet points and I want an answer. So building into that circle, we need to understand what goes wrong. So remember the 3 questions I asked you. Can you understand other archetypes that you're not? So your journey is to understand yourself, and your second superpower is to understand people who are not like you. So if you happen to be the ruler, then it's your job to understand the other 3, and so on and so on. So as a magician, I look to understand the ruler, the philosopher, and the sovereign. So let me give you a story. I was sitting in a client meeting, and this gentleman opposite me was a very aggressive ruler, and he was demanding my attention at a breakfast meeting, and he was firing bullet points at me, literally. And I was going like this, drinking my tea, and he stopped and paused. So I thought, he said, what do you think, Pauline? So I started talking about my client base because it was a business meeting. I said, well, it may be that my clients, and he stopped me short and he said, Pauline, I don't think you understand. We're not having a conversation. I'm talking to you. It was a very interesting client partnership sales relationship because I was very good because inside I was going, but I just sipped my tea, very British, and I thought, what am I going to do? So he gave me a question. He said, I don't think you realize how important I am. So I thought, right, now I know what he needs. So I replied very clearly. I said, your program is excellent, because it was. I'd been on the program the day before. I didn't like his style. And I said, your program is excellent. You've obviously done a lot of research, and I appreciate that. Whether or not we work with my clients will depend on my clients. Okay. And then I stopped talking. It was very hard for me to stop talking, but I did. And I just sipped my tea. Now, what happened was that he stood up, he shook my hand, and he said, oh, that's great. We understand each other. So he understood something different to what I understood. And what was interesting is that I did actually work with his company, but not with him. I worked with his partner, who was a philosopher. And in that situation, I realized that I needed to pay attention to what his demands were. As that ruler and under pressure, he didn't know how to chat, but he actually thought this system was very good. So these learnings are really important. If we are willing to understand somebody else's perspective, we can get into that middle circle. And remember, in this system, we're building rapport. Over and above that, you can use your very direct sales techniques, your funnel, all the things that you know, but building that rapport first means to get into safety. One of the things I know about women is when women come into a table, a meeting, a boardroom, and they're surrounded by men who are more direct than her, if she doesn't get acknowledgement, she will think that she's not looked at kindly and she's not valuable. Whereas a ruler often will be bullet point and not really understanding that the woman opposite him has got value to add. So when I coach my ruler clients, I help them understand that by just changing the dialogue, saying, I know that you have value here. I just need get my 3 points agenda through, and then we'll share. That you allow them to come into the table. And likewise for the woman to understand that he's not being offensive. He's just being very direct, as my experience was. I hope that makes sense. And I just want to take us into 2 more major slides. And I want you to think about this, knowing who you are. What goes wrong? How do you handle the tough guys and girls and get to be friends? Because remember, you might be sitting around the table with somebody who's totally different to you. And if you just do the whole meeting as you and not as them, it may not work and you may not find the opportunity. So again, there's the map, and we know all the people. We know there's a conversation in the middle. Our relational quotient is that we need to listen, learn, and value. So can we listen to somebody who's totally different to us, especially when they're not being very good? I say that with kindness, that, these are some of the negative sides of these characters. And I don't want to pause on the negative too much, but I'm sure you will recognize this. The ruler can be quite autocratic and very over-direct. I got a smile there from Anthony. The magician, like me, we can get very distracted and a bit annoying because we're thinking of and my reaction is, oh, just get out of here. The sovereign can get overprotective and too emotional and feel that everybody is imposing on her. And the philosopher can often sit there so concerned and observational that he doesn't get to be out there. So let's look at the good side, because that's going to be much more exciting. So remember, we've got these characters, they're sitting around the table and they're aiming to build a conversation. But this time they're coming in with good energy. You see the energy in there. The ruler, we do need the ruler because he's going to make good decisions. The magician's coming in with loads of ideas and concepts, and the sovereign is creating this beautiful castle, caring for everybody, making sure everything's right, all the detail. And the philosopher is really keen on making sure there's synergy and people are together. And this is my philosophy, that we create harmony and build that rapport in order to then create a sales process, the rigorous sales process. Because when we know, love, and trust each other, and we understand these major differences, and I've been doing this for 30 years, so out of my 75. So it takes time to recognize when you're with somebody and they have a totally different perspective on life because of where their physicality, their biology, their instinct is. Plus, there's going to be all sorts of other drawbacks in terms of their life experience and trauma and tension and pressure. All of those things are going to come on top. But what we've got here is a possibility of understanding how we get into that circle of conversation that breeds trust and relationships and rapport. Everything happens inside the circle. Because inside the circle, we're not being the boss, we're being the archetype. I hope that makes sense. And we'll talk about that. One last clue is the ruler will always say, when are we going to do it? The philosopher will say, why? I asked a wonderful military philosopher and I said, what's the leadership like? He said, it's asking people why they want to be here. Okay. And then the magician, she will say what? And the sovereign will say who. So these are highlights of a very much more deep study, which I do when I do my certification program in this study. The reason I believe that this is important, obviously I feel it's important because it's my work, but it's because women are out there in major enterprise building, in major trade, in building communities. And we've got different communities around here. I know Nima's here from Africa. I come from England. Many of you are from America. I was living in Malaysia. Every culture has a different set of rules and guidelines, but men and women within those cultures will perform at the baseline in these continuums. So as you have hopefully chosen your archetype, and you can use these slides later, just remember these are the top line. The ruler loves action. He wants solutions. The philosopher loves people, wants synergy. Magician wants ideas out there in collaboration, and the sovereign is into her feelings and wants community. I believe we want all of those pieces. And that for me is what the Global Chamber is about, is building community, but allowing everybody to be who they are. So if we take a look at a quick guideline, when you're making these authentic sales conversations, lean in, feel the energy around the table, contribute without judgment or anger. Even if you feel it like I did with that gentleman, don't let it destroy the energy of the circle. Act without pressure to control people, so don't push for the sales. I hate it when people try and push me to a sale. I just go, get out of here. Seek outcomes that are inclusive, and remember to celebrate. This is about value creation. So remember, what you're aiming at is to get a circle. Get into a circle. That might be just with one person that you're talking about, or two or three, but the space between you is the rapport sales space. That is the space that you are seeding opportunities. And that's where you will notice the flag come up and people will come to you. Instead of pushing for a sale, you're pulling people into the circle. And people feel really comfortable in that circle of trust with you. And then they'll say, oh, I want to sign up for your program. I want to sign up for your course. I want to do business with you. I want to trade with you. Wouldn't it be amazing if we got countries to trade under these rules?
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to be political. Hey, so this is just me. I have written a book called The Power of Authentic Harmony, and much of this is in there. And it's about building these moments of circular conversation. And also, I'm running a certified program in this in-depth, which I would love to offer to the chamber at a discount. I haven't worked out all the price points yet, but if that's interesting to you, then let me know. And essentially, this is just my list of things that I do, and I would love that to be out there. You see, that's my sales. I'm not a pushy salesperson. I just want to share this with the world. And so, Connie, I just want to say it's been a dream to hear you here, and I want to see what's been written in the chat because I can't see anything.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, everybody. Let's have some questions.
Yes, thank you. And people are saying in the chat what their archetype seems to be. And Dana said, a magician with a pinch of
Oh, great.
So
let's ask somebody who thinks they know their archetype. Maybe Anthony. Let's ask the men.
Well, I think I could be a little bit of a ruler sometimes, but you know, I feel I have pieces. I have a few pieces all over. I know that I'm not a woman, but I do share some of the sensitivities. So maybe, but I think a ruler, ma'am. Thank you for asking.
Okay, Dana, what did you think?
Yeah, I think I feel a little bit like Anthony, but definitely a magician.
The sound's gone.
Oh, Dana, you lost your sound. We can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you. You were loud and clear, and then so I think she might have froze. She'll
I'm
come
sorry.
back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Anyone else want to share what their style, their archetype? Erica.
Definitely a magician.
What makes you say that?
I get it's funny because years ago I probably would have been a sovereign, but just life experiences, I just operate more on a magician level. I'm more direct, but focused on getting people together to make decisions. Let's get things done. Like Pauline, if you approach me and push, I'm like, we haven't earned this conversation to push something on me, so you need to back up. That's my philosophy.
Yeah.
What is the major obstacle for you? What could be a major challenge in any relationship?
Um, okay, so interestingly, I'll share this with the group. When Dr. Pauline and I first met, I was fascinated when we began speaking on this topic. And then I have to say it works. Once you hear it, you start thinking about people in their archetypal roles. And I did that because I collaborate with a lot of men and a lot of men rulers. And in the past, without thinking about it, I tend to bond more with philosophers. We just get each other. But from a ruler perspective, my goal is always to get us to the table to discuss. But in a lot of instances, and what I do, they'll posture and, oh, well, we can't do that. And, you know, they just take control without looking at the outcome necessarily. So when I started thinking of things in this way, it definitely, and thank you, Dr. Pauline, for that, it enhanced my conversations with them. And I was able to use my magician archetype, if you will, to speak their language in a way where it was, I understand you. I hear you. I see your bullet points, but we need to bring this together with everybody, and not everybody's the same. And I have to say, in the last couple of months, it has been transformational, quite frankly.
That's great. I wanted to ask Tino, because you put there that you have to go soon, but you love the presentation, Tino. How did it impact you?
Well, I liked your, because I've seen many charts, many graphics, and I liked your ruler, magician. I have never seen it this way. I've seen it many other ways. So I'm definitely a ruler. Being a man, I like to rule. I like to. So I really like your philosophy. So I'll reach out to you. I have to run. I did want to take a time to say thank you for your presentation, but I do have to run. So thank you for your time, and great presentation again.
And thank you for being a ruler here. I appreciate that.
All right.
Thank
Take care, everybody.
Yeah. Well, and I know Annette, she put something in the chat. Annette, can you come on camera?
Well, actually, I can. Hold on one second here. All right, let me pull my picture down.
Welcome, welcome, Annette.
Thank you.
Your insights, Annette, about rulers, maybe, and philosophers, about men.
Well, I'm a musician, and I'm not sure if I understood your question, but my biggest challenge is not meeting a lot of musicians, I guess. So I'm an INTJ. So if you know anything about Myers-Briggs, there's a small percentage of us. So it's really challenging at times being in those leadership groups where you're the only maybe 2 or 3 people in that side of the corner and everybody else is with everybody else. So
Absolutely. So hopefully that will help. I'd like to share a story with you all about my colleague who is a ruler, but he thought he was a philosopher. So when he first came to us, he's very passionate about balance between men and women and making sure that the workplace is kind and caring to women and not, as Annette alluded to, a fierce place to be. And so he said, I'm a philosopher, which was very interesting because as we got to know him, we realized his actions were very ruler. So if he's on topic, he's absolutely 100% there. But when you move to another topic, he's gone. And this is the style of a ruler. They tend to be on one topic and then that's it. Whereas, and you might think about that, Anthony, the philosopher is the one who understands everybody because he's holding the observation of the room. Whereas the ruler is fantastically verbal on topic, but then he's done. And when Adolfo realized it, he really shifted gears. And what was interesting was his reaction to not wanting to be a ruler was he had seen and experienced so many rather horrible rulers who were vile and, just firing. He was fired by a very nasty ruler from a corporate situation. So he vowed never to be that person. But what he recognized, he could be a wise ruler, as Tino is, I'm sure. And I think, Anthony, you're a philosopher. I just get a sense of that. But being a wise ruler is a very important part of what we need in the world, because we do need the clear decision makers and we need them to be paying attention, but they may be short on time with us. And I know that if I send a message to Adolfo, he answers with a yes. If I send a message to a philosopher, they will answer with, oh, thank you, Pauline, that's really good. I would think, da, 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 da.
I'm a philosopher.
Okay, that's good to know. Because this is about our response behavior. It's not about our personality. So there were several magicians here in the room, but we're not all the same. There can be several philosophers and not all the same. I quote Nelson Mandela as a philosopher because he's a very strong leader, but he was always intuitively thinking about people. Whereas other ruler leaders who take their troops into battle, they need to be laser focused in a positive way. So you'll notice that, and a magician could be sometimes very blunt. I'm out of here. Whereas a sovereign wants to know what's going on. She will close up her drawbridge. So when we watch negative behavior, I'll give you a quick eyesight. When a ruler is bad, he's a bully. When a philosopher is bad, he's a wimp. When a sovereign's bad, she's a victim. And when a magician's bad, she's a bitch. Connie.
That is so awesome.
Yes, yes. Okay, so Dr. Pauline, I have a question. I was talking with a ruler, a client ruler the other day, and I have learned to just listen. And all of a sudden he goes, "Am I talking too much?" And I was so shocked. I still can't figure because he was. And I was so shocked to this day. I don't know how I could have answered him like, well, yes, but what is it in me that didn't want to say, well, hell yes, you were talking too much? I mean,
Well, and it might be nervousness. I think one of the clear ways to deal with rulers, and I'll just share with you that my son, who's 47, is a ruler. I've got very practiced at how to deal with him. Because when he's on topic, he's very verbal. But moving to another topic that he doesn't want, he's out. So with a ruler, if he is a ruler, the one thing to do is to say, I hear what you say. Can I summarize that? 1, 2, 3. Is that right? So what you're doing is you feed into his verbal address. And because you lean into that, he actually leans back into you because he's going, oh, yes. So what are you about? Whereas if you just go in with a sort of, oh, goodness sake, you need to listen to me, he's not going to like that. So remember, he's got bullet points to honor his bullet points. In the same way with a philosopher, you might honor his why. So again, a real life situation, I had a woman who was a sovereign and she had been a nurse and she was now a CEO. And she had to have a meeting with a professor who was a philosopher and a very senior expert doctor who was a ruler. And this doctor who was a ruler didn't like women being in power. And she didn't want to go to the meeting. But I said to her, look, if you sit in the meeting and honor his bullet points, and she did that. So I said, with the ruler, you say, you let him speak, and then you summarize what he said. You sound very intelligent because he wants to know that you know who he is, like my gentleman with the cup of tea. And then you turn to the philosopher and say, how does that feel? Because that's what Anthony wants. How do you feel? And the ruler doesn't need to know what's going on. He just needs to know that he's leaning in and being heard. So being heard is something that we all want. We all want to be heard in the way that is best for us. So it's like with me, I've got hundreds of ideas. If people don't honor my ideas, I start blanking out. A sovereign will blank out if you don't honor her feelings.
so, but I heard you say, ask permission. Can I summarize? If you're talking to a ruler, do you have to ask for permission?
Well, you could say, I'd like to summarize. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. In a way, you're not asking permission, you're actually honoring him. That's the sort of the philosophy. He's saying, I hear what you say, and now I'd like you to hear what I'm going to say.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay, Erica has a question, and then Dana, did your sound come back? Dana is such
I think so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because we lost you, and then we'll go to Erica. What did you want to share?
Well, I'm just fascinated anytime that we can learn how to better get along and support the bigger picture. And then I know, Dr. Pauline, one of your goals is really just to improve communication around the world. And part of me is going, wow, that's a huge task. But starting with Global Chamber first, starting in our WhatsApp groups first, is certainly a way that we are able to get it done on a more direct level. So I am a magician, but I'm a magician that likes to know what we're going to do, be very clear. Not really someone who likes the long version of a story. I like a story, but let's just get to it.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. And that's really important. It's like if you're in a magical conversation which has no judgment, no anger, no coercion, people often say to me, what do you do when somebody's angry? I say, well, if they're really angry, you need to negotiate them being back on rules. If they're really angry, you've destroyed the magical conversation. But it's the point where you will hear things that you don't like. And it's important to say, well, that's an interesting perspective. Full stop, no more voice. Because all you're doing is saying, that's interesting. You're leaving the energy up. You're taking it down.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. So any other questions? And then Erica. Oh, and then Anthony has a question. Erica and then Anthony.
Okay, so I won't definitely I'll keep this short. So I have a quick funny story for you that relates to this so well, and then a couple observations. The funny story is my husband and the dog are the only males in our house. 3 daughters and 2 granddaughters. One daughter does not live at home and one is off to university now, but it's just funny how the dynamics work because there's been times my poor husband, we've ganged up on him and he'll say, I'm confused. You said you want this, but now you're upset with me because you don't want it. I'm not really sure what's happening here. And we're like, don't you understand double speak? It's like, keep up. And it's just funny how he just rolls with this. But one thing that's important is my conversations with my daughters have been to understand differences. And so we've had they're still teenagers, but we've had these conversations so that hopefully they start thinking about this out in the world about, dad, you have to be direct. A dad, a man, a fellow schoolmate, whatever it is not going to necessarily think the way that you do. So you have to be mindful of how men and women process things. If you want something, you have to say that's what you want, not the story, well, the long way around. So I just wanted to share that. And I have my daughter who's at university is a very, very strong personality, extremely strong personality. And I've been flustered in how to communicate with her because we'll talk at each other a lot. And so I'm using what you've shared, Dr. Pauline, to have better conversations with her so that we understand one another instead of you don't understand me, I don't understand you kind of conversation. But now the observation you brought up at the beginning of the presentation, and great slides, by the way, I love your slides. You talked about miscommunication, misunderstanding, and missed opportunities. Well, I would say, and I wonder if you all agree, that the way we are now, I think 2 things. We come to a conversation with preconceived notions about how things should be. And with the world being so sped up, I feel like we need to get out what we need to say, generally speaking. And that I think is causing a lot of these issues. And I would add a third thing, the way this is a beautiful forum we have. We're all over the world here communicating. But when we can meet in person, I think that should be the plan if possible, rather than resorting to online, because I think that the ability for us to collaborate better is being lost because we're not getting the energy from a 2-dimensional device. So with Global Chamber, it's been said multiple times today, it's just a group that works differently than anything I've ever seen before in a collaborative way, regardless of archetype, which is beautiful. But I would say it's our duty as global leaders to help promote exactly what you're talking about and do it more and not feel that, oh, we're only one person. Can we really make a difference? No, we can and we need to, so that the younger generations and older generations, it doesn't matter. As long as we're connecting one to another, I think it's our responsibility to help people see this so that we have more tolerance and thus we can maybe reverse the cycle of where things are going. Sorry, that was longer than I planned.
But I so agree. And I think, I've been in the Global Chamber, 6 weeks now, and I have to tell you all that it's so different to any network or any platform that I've been in before. You're also welcoming, and Doug and Cesar, Dana, Connie, I've met many of you before, and it's very interesting. The energy is very different. And Erica and I have met in person. So fulfilling that in-person bit, actually hugging, it makes a huge difference. And we need these touch points, especially with the younger generation, the 18 to 30, because they've lived all their life on this. And there's a lot of able to, I don't like that person, I swipe that person out. And we're entering into a world which doesn't talk to each other. In my day, the telephone was connected to the wall. The whole situation has changed. We need to have conversations. And I think that is the key to it. So, Anthony, what were you thinking?
All right. Well, I just had a question. So I work with in my organization, we have an employee engagement meeting management tool, and we integrate with a lot of behavioral profiling. So whether that's strength finders or predictive index, DISC, kind of you name it. And I was just wondering how your system plays or complements or coalesces around some of those other systems.
Thank you, Anthony, for that. I've been, and maybe all of you can help me. I've written an assessment for these archetypes, and I've written it for kids and for adults. I'm testing it out, so I'll get back to you on that.
Awesome.
But I've studied Myers-Briggs and colors and other behavioral tools, and all the continuums are similar. It's all based on Jungian, direct, indirect, etc., etc. I'll give you an example. I had a meeting with a man, and he, local guy, and he's an entrepreneur, and he said, "Oh, well, I don't know. I think I'm a ruler." And I was looking and thinking, "Oh, I think you're a philosopher." Anyway, eventually I said, "Have you got a business partner?" And he said, "Oh, yes. He's definitely a ruler." So I said, "Well, then you're not a ruler because you're a complement to him." And he had done the colors, the colors.
Mm-hmm.
And he turned out to be a blue and his partner was red. Well, boom. I go, right, you're a philosopher. He's a ruler, but you're both men. So that's the thing, is that all women have certain traits that are similar. We're all nurturers. We're all relational. Men have similar circles. So yes, I'm going to create this assessment and bring it to the Global Chamber. And if you can help me on that, Anthony, I would be delighted.
I LinkedIn'd you already. You should reach out to me. I'd love to learn more.
Thank you.
Good connections being made. Okay, we have time for a couple more questions here. Couple more questions. Dana put something up about the authors workshop. And you know what I'm taking away very strongly today is you are very, it's really conversation. And yes, okay, Quanta, please, what is your question?
Thank you very much. And it's really nice to see Pauline give a presentation. She was our past president in Rotary Club. So I was curious. Thank you so much. It was really wonderful. One thing I wanted to ask was that there are so many concepts of communication. How do we avoid not being authentic and more methodical, but then appear to be on the surface sort of not genuine, and also creating more complexity, more complications, because we have so many ways of boxing people, you know, you're this and you're that, and then looking at it from that perspective, that's kind of preconceived notion, I should say. How do we avoid that?
That's a really good question, Quentin. I love that you're here. Thank you for joining. Maybe you'll join Global Chamber as well. The whole issue of being authentic or not authentic is a personal choice, I think. You know, our own, in my book, I talk about various principles of empathy and trust and respect. You know, we have to have certain core values, and people like to hide behind a mask, literally and figuratively. But we'll always sense something that's not genuine, I think. I don't know about you guys and girls, but, you know, I remember years and years ago, I worked with, I'm British, even though I live in America, but in the 90s, I worked with an American lady in England. She taught me a lot about being American, a very bold and confident. And, you know, we used to talk about this, you know, being genuine, being authentic and not behind a mask because we were image concerned. It's a choice. And I think that's where she used to say to me, you've got genuine confidence. The only thing you can do with it is give it away. People feel it. And if you think about energy, whenever you feel that something is not genuine, test it inside, not on the other person. If it feels ingenuine, then let it go. It's you're very interesting, but I have to go the other direction. And that happens to us. Because when we get sucked into something that's not genuine, then it hurts and it hurts us. And women are very good at nurturing and not taking care of themselves sometimes. So I think for women, we have to be brave and really understand our own honesty and authenticity. That's why my book is about the power of authentic harmony. And very quickly, this is power in the sense of switching on the light, not power as in greed or corruption. But if you power up the world with authentic harmony, I see it as switching on the lighthouse. You notice there's a lighthouse, and I have lighthouses behind me. Lighthouses are grounded beacons of light which shine and allow safe passage. And I see that with the Global Chamber, that we're all lighthouses and we share the light across the world. I love looking at the map on the Global Chamber, which has 590 odd chapters. I think that's wonderful. And I know Doug's here somewhere, hopefully, but that is important. That's why I joined, because it gets us together across the world if we all shine our genuine light.
That's so beautiful. We have one more question. Dana, do you want to come on and ask your quick question, and then we'll say adios?
Okay, thank you, Connie. As a magician, not sitting in a space of judgment.
Uh-oh, we lost her again. She was asking about choosing to post a picture or not on LinkedIn linked to authenticity. So she's having.
Well, yes, I think we should do that. And what I do with my PowerPoints is I turn them into JPEG, so we can use any of them we need to do that.
Yeah,
she's getting her sound. Can I ask a quick question?
sure.
This is Annette. I was just curious to know, when was the chamber, Global Chamber, founded? I was looking on the website and I couldn't find any information about that.
And
You could
well,
tell Erica or Connie, or Dana, you know.
yeah, well, you know what? I can't give you specifics, Annette, but I'll make sure. Dana said almost 9 years, because I think
Doug showed up just in time to answer this question, I think.
Doug, it was 8.
Hi, Doug. I hope you were here for the presentation.
I was sharing you with my grandson, so it worked out really well. So thank you. I'm going to actually listen to that one again. Annette, thank you for your question, and feel free to reach out directly. I'm at doug@globalchamber.org, but this is our 9th year. And the vision of Global Chamber is, as Pauline mentioned, I also get still excited when I see the whole map. And this week in particular, I've reached out to maybe a few more dozen chapters, and to hear the excitement of people who, once they get that this is they'll be part of the global tribe, And to be able to make connections for people to grow across cities and borders is still a thrill every day. And so thank you for your question, and thank you all for your leadership and your involvement and your support and your collaboration. We are a global tribe. So we love the fact that we can get together like this and learn from people like Pauline today. So Pauline, thank you in particular for sharing this knowledge today.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Doug. I just wanted to acknowledge, although Nima's just left, that she put a question there saying, what constructive solutions can we propose to address the challenges we frequently discuss, and how can we work together to implement these changes effectively? I believe, and I did it during COVID, I had monthly wisdom circles where people from across the world would come and they would discuss men and women and the challenges, and maybe to have that magical conversation regularly across the world, because that's the way that people get used to being in no judgment spaces. That's something to think about.
Yes. Okay. Well, we're at the top of the hour. So thanks again, Dr. Pauline, and everybody that joined us. I see some hearts going up, and I feel more enlightened. So thank you. Thank you. So we'll see you next month, second Thursday, and we'll see you then. So thanks again, everybody. And Pauline, thank you.
Thank you, all of you. And I'll be in touch, Anthony.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it. Thanks.
Bye
Excellent.
bye.
Thank you.